Long ago in India, a king and a queen had a baby son. And when the son was born, they named him Siddhartha. After his birth, the king and queen invited the holiest man in the kingdom to come and bless their son. The holy man came to the palace and he looked down at the son and he told the king and queen that their son would one day become either a great and powerful king like his father, or he would leave the palace, live wild in the woods and the forests of India, and become a great healer and a holy man. Well, the king obviously wanted his son to be a king like himself. So he made sure his son had everything he ever wanted in the palace. The best clothes, the best food, the finest horse, and he trained him to become a great king like himself. When Siddhartha was old enough, he was trained in all the ways of kingship. He learned his lessons, but he didn't learn math or English or geography or history. He learned how to ride a horse. He learned how to hold a sword. He learned how to fight. He learned how to rule. Well, after his lessons every day, Siddhartha would go into the garden in the palace. He would sit under the tree and he would watch all the animals in the garden. The king had many deer and goats and sheep and cows and geese. And Siddhartha would sit and he would play with the animals, he would watch them, he would talk to them, and he would help them. And the animals grew to trust him, and they would come close to him and let him touch them and stroke them. And one day, Siddhartha and his cousin Devadatta were playing out in the fields and the rivers near the palace, and suddenly a wild swan flew overhead. Siddhartha stood and he watched the swan flying in the sky, thinking how beautiful the swan was, when suddenly he saw the swan fall from the sky with a loud cry. He ran to where the swan had landed on the ground, and he saw an arrow had pierced the swan's wing, and blood surrounded the white feathers of the swan. He picked up the swan and he said, "Who has shot you? Who has wounded you?" As he was holding the swan, his cousin Devadatta came running up, holding his bow and arrow. "That's my swan," he said. "I shot it. He belongs to me." Siddhartha said, "No, the swan belongs with his friends and his family in the sky. I'm going to heal him." Devadatta says, "You can't do that. It's my swan. According to the law, I own him now." Well, the boys argued for some time, and all the while Siddhartha held the swan in his arms, cradling it. Well, Siddhartha said, "In our country, if two people have a dispute, we go to the king to solve our problem." So, Siddhartha and Devadatta took the swan to the palace, Siddhartha still cradling the wounded swan in his arms. When they got to the palace, they found the king was having a very important meeting with all his advisors. Siddhartha and Devadatta stood at the door of the king's chamber holding the swan, asking if the king could help them. At first the king's advisors said, "Boys, go away, we are far too busy just now, this is very important." But Siddhartha said, "But in our country, if there is a disagreement, the king can solve the problem." The king said, "Yes, the boys are right. Let them come in." So Siddhartha and Devadatta came into the king's presence and they told him their story. Well, all the advisors said, "Devadatta is right. According to the law of the land, he shot the swan. The swan is now his by right." But Siddhartha said, He did not kill the swan. The swan is alive. He needs healed. Though the advisors didn't know what to say to that, they looked at the king, who was equally puzzled. Just then, a man appeared at the doorway, a very old man dressed in rags. And the king recognized him as the same holy man who had come to visit Siddhartha all those years ago when he was a baby. The holy man let the man enter, and the king said, "Can you solve this problem?" The holy man said, "This swan wants to live. He doesn't want to suffer. Like us, he wants to be healed, he wants to be happy, he wants to be with his friends and his family. The swan is loved by his family and his friends, the same as you love your son, Siddhartha." The king said, "Yes, you're right. My son has shown respect for the swan and for all life, the same as I show respect for my family and my friends and my people. Siddhartha can keep the swan until it is healed." Devadatta, Siddhartha's cousin, realized then that respect isn't just for your friends or your family, or even just for other human beings, but for all life. The boys waited till the swan was healed. They took it back to the river, and one day when the swan was strong enough, they let the swan go back into the river where it swam away. Suddenly they heard a noise. They looked into the sky and they saw 3 swans flying towards them. It was the swan's family come back. Their own swan suddenly flew into the sky, joined its friends, and the swans flew 3 times around the boys to say thank you for their kindness. And the boys watched as the swans slowly flew away to the mountains in the north. And that is a Buddhist tale of respect. Respect for everyone, for all life. Sadhu.